Good morning, Martel.
Morning. How you doing?
Um, I know we only have 20 minutes today, and I saw that there was a influx of documents that I
Right.
know that we would not be able to get through. I thought I'd ask you, is there a particular document that you would like me to focus on today to start with?
I just wanted, actually, I sent those to have you to when I was going to reference a couple of points.
Okay.
Um, so I guess if anything, obviously, Dr. Jim's certification letter, uh, that's the most important one.
Okay.
That's what he wrote last night. Touch base, talked to him last night. He went over Anna's evaluation and the prison results, and this is what he wrote up. He said that if either of us felt that there need to be any adjustments or edits or whatever else, that you could simply just text him and uh, uh, or I could
Yeah, I'll
tell
write.
him.
Well, I'll write up notes is what I'll do. I'll put it on here, and I could send it in the interest of time.
Yeah.
Let me see what he wrote for you, if that's okay.
No, no,
Um,
please. No, that's the most important thing.
he obviously throws it down right there pretty quickly, and then it says in this property, you have had severe decline in their health with cognitive and physiological effects being among the most urgent. They have commissioned an inspection with Anna Branch, blah blah blah, who has discovered a number of breaches that are possibly contributing to the poor habitability of the unit. These include defects in the system, the missing insulation on a copper line, which causes condensations to drip on the ceiling panel. There is loose insulation within the HVAC, and loose fiberglass insulation was observed inside the ducts because the coils placed overly close to the vent. There is rust and high risk for microbial growth. There is an observed opening between the drywall and register. Rust observed on the register grill. The client, the report notes, observed water dripping on the register. Yep. Furthermore, the outside fresh air is squeezed, possibly preventing the transfer of clean air to the unit. One of the filters is missing. Small opening between the pipe and drywall is not caulked from the wall cavity, may enter the environment. I support the medical necessity of urgency, making the above and of all repairs documented by the two inspectors, Anna Branch and Michael Schrantz. So if I'm hearing the theme correctly, it's kind of got two things here. The first thing is that he acknowledges, Dr. Jim, that this environment appears to not be working for you, and I would argue that he's also including biomarkers, blood
Right.
and symptoms and that sort of thing. But when he ties into the environmental side, he's just basically identifying these observations. The observations are what the bullet points are, and that if they were fixed, that um, it implies that things would be better for you. I
Yeah.
think it's a takeaway.
Yeah.
Um, Golly, not sure that they would be better for you, but is this? Are you wanting an out if your health is being compromised, or do you want to give the apartment management a chance to fix these things and then see how you do?
What we want to do is to uh, have it fix it ourselves. There's an option, the repair and deduct. We touched on it, I think, a little bit the
Yeah.
last meeting, and actually there is on a document. I'm going to try to see if I can. My eyesight isn't very good. It's called the Urgent Repair Program.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So uh, this is a this is probably the easiest, quickest way to do this. We
Hmm.
don't necessarily need to do it this way, but this would be the easiest. Where basically we just need an acknowledgement that we have these severe habitability issues and that we fix the issues ourselves.
And then they
And
reimburse you.
no, we just simply deduct it from the rent
Okay. Well,
the
okay.
next month.
One way or the other. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So basically, yeah. And this is a specific program through the LA Housing Department where you just contact them and they would go find out whatever responsible oversight agency. We don't have to do that because it's like 10 in the city. And basically, they can do one of three things. They can order a 48-hour immediate repair
Yeah.
order to the landlords, give them 48 hours. If they don't do it in 48 hours, and basically what the city does is that they do it for us. They hire the contractors and they charge like an extra 40% on top to the landlord for the administration of it and whatever
Which
else. They
invites
can,
a secondary concern, which is the quality of work that's entering into your apartment.
right. Or, and this is the most important one, it's on, if you scroll down to the very end, I think, I'm going to see if I can
This same
find,
document.
yeah, the same document. It's the very, give me 1 second. Blah, 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 blah. The most important thing we're looking for is, yeah, in D, under additional authority, section 2, it says the HCID shall have, that's the housing department, shall have the authority to cause the work to be performed at request of the tenant acting pursuant to the Civil Code 1942, which describes the tenant's repair and deduct remedy.
In other words, you have control.
Right. So we get to choose it. We get to choose what gets done, who to hire, and we simply just, we can spend up to 2 months worth of rent on this and deduct it from the rent. So that's our rent is $3,500 a month, so we could spend up to $7,000, and we could start the deduction immediately for next month's rent until it's whatever. That's what we want to do. So the only thing we need to do is we need to contact this housing department. They have a special unit that apparently they're the special response unit.
I'm listening.
And the only question that I have at this point is, I think that we can just send them what the results of the evaluation and Dr. Jim's note and whatever else. I can send them whatever, and I think that they can just simply look at it and that they don't need to come out and visually confirm whatever else.
Okay.
I know that's an option, but that's going to be based on the strength of the evidence.
Yeah.
Because that's really what we're doing. We want to, our two biggest things are obviously being able to control the work and also how fast we can do it, because it is really pounding us. I don't know if I got my respirator off before we started, but
you did. I saw it.
Yeah, that's where we're at right now. I think that's the only reason why I'm being somewhat cogent. That's probably the only reason. Do you see Lindsay? She's right.
I can. Hey, Lindsay.
Yeah, so it's pretty tough right now, and
that's the part that worries me. I think that if I don't disagree in that this idea of having control of who you use, controlling the efforts, making sure that they have a game plan. How are they going to do all this work? That is the work that was identified in these bullet points right here. I'm more concerned about whether or not it's going to be enough for you.
Okay.
You know, it's like, okay, so fine. Yeah, I think these things should be addressed, but that doesn't guarantee that once they're addressed that you're going to be better. And are you going to kind of be put in a worse compromising position like the state or the LA document here that gives you this urgent repair program that gives you some room? Now the apartment's going to say, well, listen, guys, we've honored your request, and now you're still not getting better. Or do we need a new note from Dr. Jim?
Right.
That says currently are not getting better. You might say, yeah. The short answer, Mike, is that yeah, I might have to go through that whole roller coaster ride, and it's not going to be as quickly as I want. As long as you're not bothered by that, then I don't have a problem. This is pretty good. Listen, anytime somebody gives a letter and it's from a doctor, all of a sudden people get puckered up. And Dr. Jim wasn't afraid to swing with comments like this.
Yeah. Now, I'll just make this comment. When we first moved in here, and I think that from the evidence of Vanna's evaluation and everything, I think that the issues that are causing our problem were likely were there. These seems to be insulation type issues. We had a really remarkable upswing. It took about 2.5 weeks for us to start going back down. Our thinking is that if we could return the place, if it's possible to return the place to the quality, well, we want it better than that because it wasn't perfect anyway. That the issue under the sink, the moisture, whatever, the TMVOC, that stuff was always there. The fresh air vent was bad the day that we moved in because Lindsay smelled it and stuff like that. So if we can get it to where it should be, I mean, that we don't see any reason why. And Dr. Jim, when we talked to him yesterday, seemed to agree that there seems to be no reason why we wouldn't get better. Is there anything that you're seeing?
You also were talking about construction being occurring.
Right.
And that
right.
could have played a serious role in the decline.
Yeah, that's.
And they're still actually getting that's still going on, but I think there's ways that we can actually, well, we just haven't engaged with the apartment management, but we can do something about that. And also
Mhm.
too, I was wondering, I wanted to get your input on that fresh air, that fan. I don't know if you got any. I sent some documents regarding that unit. It's a FAS fresh air. Um, yeah, it's under the instructions or the specs. It's that thing, and they don't even have a filter in this thing.
Right.
And it says that I know they don't because I Anna opened it up. It's in the pictures. It's not there. I opened
Because
it
an
up, kind of.
optional 10 by 10 by 2 inch filter can be added. That's
Mhm,
interesting. Okay.
right, and it's not included, and even if they had included it, if it was in there, it says specifically. I have like 4 documents from the manufacturer about this particular unit. They say specifically if that the filter should be checked at least monthly and changed at least every 3 months.
Yeah,
So
that's just CYA. Is this the unit right here by chance or the internals
that's
of
it.
it?
Yeah, yeah,
So it does have a metal filter, which is good at stopping bird feathers, but that's about it.
Yeah.
yeah.
And so the idea is that you could slap in, say, like, for example, a MERV 13 filter
Mhm.
and just give it a shot, see how it does. And as long as for the sake of time, I'm not going to get into it, but as long as there's nothing that says you can't use that,
Mhm.
then I would do it. You don't want them to get anything where it says, "Oh, well, the manufacturer says you can't use a MERV 13."
Right.
Unless there's something in there that says
No,
that.
Yeah.
I was actually gonna touch base with them because we do have to make adjustments for the general AC uh, rating is. We don't want to throw it off, I
Right.
guess. So
Well,
I
you
mean,
might reduce it, and you will. Anytime you add a filter, you're going to slow down the air a little bit. I mean, you got a metal filter in there that's basically next to no resistance, and now you're going to add something that's better filter. But it's this whole compromise. If the air quality sucks outside, then I'd rather have at least it be filtered at a reduced inlet. I mean, they talk about static pressure drops right in here. I mean, you can see, this has to deal with the amount of resistance. And of course, if you add ductwork, that adds more resistance. If you add filter, that adds more resistance. But the idea is that, so what? So maybe it doesn't bring in, I'm making this up because it's conveniently here,
right, right,
120 CFM. Maybe it's only bringing in 70. Golly, it's 70 of MERV 13 filtered air. I'd take it over 120 of non-filtered, especially since that appears to be a trigger for you. And that's
right,
non-medical assessment, but it's like a
right,
guy, you're wearing a half-mask respirator. You
right,
seem to correlate some observations, and I believe you to be a very observant person with the construction going on that you pointed out to me. It's like kind of makes sense.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's hello.
Do we lose him?
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
hearing you.
I was still having flashbacks to the last one. So yeah, it's clearly. I mean, we've been documenting this.
Merv 16.
Yeah, it takes up to MERV 16. Lindsay said she went to the website, but
That's
we
awesome.
we've been documenting like everything since the day we moved in, and there's some very clear patterns about what causes issues and what doesn't, and it's we're lucky in that it's very stereotypical. It follows a very strict pattern.
And what is that
And
pattern? Debris generation?
I'm sorry.
And what is that pattern?
Well, well, proximity to the uh, kitchen sink. That when that smell is stronger, we get hurt worse.
Okay.
When we turn on the AC, use it at all now. We had record cold in Los Angeles the last 2 days. We were freezing cold because we couldn't even turn on the heat on because for the last month, every time we turn it on, we both smell it and immediate reaction. Um, so I mean that that seems to be it. I mean, when those things don't happen, things are better. It's never good in here anymore. And I think and I could be wrong, but I think that's a function of just having that accumulation of kind of chronic uh, dispersing of whatever is coming out of those areas that could be uh, that could be considered a biotoxin or an inflammagen or whatever else. I think that a deep cleaning, once we did the actual structural remediations with caulking the stuff around, doing the cleaning of the HVAC and addressing that P-trap and the cracks in the wall under the sink. That should probably take care of whatever present reservoirs we have.
And
I think
what do you guys have in the way of portable air filtration devices?
we have in the IQ Air Multi-Gas GC. We
Okay, some
have
more chemical. Got it.
and we have the Autumn. I don't know which filter we have in it right now.
So
The
the one
car.
just for that now, but I actually ordered the car one. So
Yeah, so we have just the standard Autumn filter, and
So increasing that would definitely help. This idea of, filtration here is going to help lower total particle load in combination with routine cleaning, not to be confused with excessive. Once a week, maybe getting the countertops, just keeping things clean. In concert with portable air filtration devices, whether it's a $250 Honeywell unit, something like, this guy right here, which, I mean, you can find, look at it, it's not back on sale again. That's awesome.
Okay, yeah.
Something like that, that's more of a workhorse. It's kind of noisy. It's not programmable and fancy like $1,000 IQ Air that you're familiar with. But
Right.
again, one per room. And the idea is that you're going to be, even the GQ multi-gas you have has
Right.
pretty darn good filtration on it. That to me, in concert with, I was looking up Nordic Pure. Home Depot sells them. There's a MERV 14 that are 10 by 10 by 1 inch. I'm trying to find to be honest with you, I was trying to find an easier, like a higher MERV, and it's going to be harder to find a higher MERV that is custom to your size. But
Right.
making sure that that's properly seated in that unit, even if you have to put like some tape to seal the sides so that air can't bypass around the filter, it has to go through the filter. Whatever you have to do to make that work, that to me is going to be a huge improvement. And thankfully, Lindsay found that the unit, it can accept up to a MERV 16, which is fantastic.
Right. Now, I watched your podcast on with the ventilation and
Oh yeah, with Nikki.
yeah. The unit that we have, the fresh air assembly, the blower fan.
Yeah.
It's very easily removable. Is there anything I'm going to go back and look at some of the product line. I just thought about this morning that maybe we can with a small ER, that's it right there. A smaller ER is very poorly, it's very shoddily installed. Like that's one of the things Anna noted was the fact that the tape and everything around it, it's not sealed at all. The ducting connectors. I wonder if would it be worth our time to look into getting an ERV type or a better filter than that, or just a better unit.
Does that current system duct directly into your air conditioning ductwork, or is it independently ducted, the current system?
Independent.
So it brings in air, takes it through a cheap metal filter, and that air is dumped in, and then that air is dumped into the apartment through one register.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. The difference between what you have in an ERV is that you're not exchanging air. It looks like this is one way. You got air coming in.
Yeah. Okay.
You could argue, by the way, produces a positive pressure. So I would start with buying a couple of MERV 14 Nordic Pure filters. It looks like Home Depot is going to be the easiest way, at least for me, to find it. There they are. Now these are 1 inch, but let's just experiment. Of course, these are 6 packs. You spend a little bit of money, but let's try it. So like a 3-pack, $52. Listen. We're experimenting, and you let that thing run, and then if you notice improvement, maybe that's it. Because the idea of adding an ERV adds the complexity of, number one, whether you can do it, and number two, it adds another register in the home because you have to have a stale air out, which a traditional ERV or HRV does have that. It has air coming in from the outside and air from the inside going outside. It exchanges through a coil, and that's what helps warm or cool down the air, depending on the season.
Well, I don't know much about this. Maybe a silly question with filters, but if there was mold or whatever, some type of toxin already in the ductwork outside, does the filter catch that, or does that still need to be addressed?
Well, you hope so,
first?
but does anybody think in the assessment that there was mold growing in the ductwork? Because that's a big difference.
Well, this is what the This is what I should point this. The actual manufacturer in this warning on page
Oh, yeah.
1 of the instructions or the specs.
By the way, I
said,
just have to do this because it's policy. It's 20 minutes. You guys want to keep on going? We can. We can. By the way.
right. Yeah, let's keep going.
Okay, go ahead. Mike's yours.
Actually, yeah, because we're attaching this to the rent thing too. We're deducting this from the rent.
Okay, got it.
But even if it wasn't, so it says that it's very important to you have to keep. Yes, right here. It says that the insulation around the ducts can reduce energy loss and inhibit mold growth. That's not the only time it says that, but they make a point of they're telling you to make sure that you are
insulating.
It's insulating, and
they're worried about condensation. They're worried about the dew point being met.
And that is not. It's not. I don't think they say that they specify a 6-inch diameter metal type of ducting, which we don't have. I don't think it's really. And
whether or not, obviously, it's a 6-inch round pipe inlet outlet that comes out of the unit, right?
Right.
And there's arguments to be made about whether or not that duct is run in a conditioned space or not. If it's ran in a conditioned space, they'll argue that maybe it's not as important because the temperature differentials in that cavity where this unit is located, this picture right here, is not severe. It's not like you stick your hand up there, bear with me, and it's like really cold right now. However, if that's not the case, number one, you could say, no, it's not the case, and that's another reason to have insulation there. Number two, if the manufacturer is recommending it, this would be a great opportunity to push that narrative. By the way, in doing so, you might be able to get them just to replace that entire duct. Because the other thing I was going to tell you about is why not see if, let's just play the pretend game and act like this duct on this side where my cursor is the one that's going to the outside. I don't see a reason why you couldn't temporarily detach that duct and look in it, take some photos and see whether or not you see evidence of just dirty ductwork or evidence of growth. Evidence of growth is not always obvious, but sometimes it does look like the pictures you see on Google, the spotting and stuff like that.
Right. I don't know if you see it on page, there's the ducting being squeezed.
She mentioned something like that. Fresh air intake is squeezed between drywall and return, unable to determine if airflow is in restricted any way. So I don't know if there is a limitation here. Obviously, you don't want to choke off ductwork. There is some forgiveness factor. When people design these things, they understand it's not going to be perfectly round and straight. Even corners and bends are going to add resistance. But to Anna's point, we don't know if it's reaching a crush factor. So I don't know what the tolerance is, but I would imagine that anything that is compromised to flex duct over, say, if it's 60% of its original shape. So here's a circle, and there's 60% right there, or worse. Then you really are going to diminish it. This right here will let a lot of air go through. This right here is severely restrictive because of the amount of surface that you create.
Okay, that's great. Okay, that's good. Thank you. But one thing that Anna pointed out was that, and I did a poor job of including the video in our first consultation. Remember, I was talking about the registers sweating condensation, and
I recall concerns about it, but keep going.
And actually, I can send you the video, but it was like really severe. And
I do remember that now, dripping.
Right, dripping. One of the first things while she was here, and she's highlighted it on some. I'm trying to actually pull up her report. I have so many documents. I don't know what page it is on, but she talks about how the what did she say? The condensation coil is very close to the intake for the fresh air, and that.
No.
Okay.
Talking about the HVAC.
Okay.
I think it might be right above.
It's different where she's talking about where the duct.
There's some rusting right there, by the way.
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about?
Right. Well, it's on each one of our registers, actually.
Okay. So we have condensation built up.
Right, and this is one of the ones that in the bedroom that it leaked, but apparently, this is the layman's way of saying it.
Oh, this where you said
where it's the area where the where the cool air is coming out through the wherever that's generated and with the AC
Hmm.
is right next to one of the warm air, the fresh air thing, or when it.
Oh, it says it right here, the grill, the.
Wait, anyway, she says that basically
I don't-
there's a temperature differential.
Yeah.
They're
You have
very
cold.
close and
If listen,
they're not insulated.
if you don't have, there's one right there. That might be a better example. If you don't have insulated ductwork at all points, not just the flex duct, but also the box. This is a metal boot right there. And if it's not insulated and you have that, see, there's your flex duct, and you can see the insulation on the other side of the internal barrier. But yet, if it hits an area where there's not insulation and you're getting warmer, perhaps more moisture laden air that hits that nice cool metal surface, this will happen. And to the fact that it's dripping down is pretty intimidating. That almost sounds like there's a pretty excessive temperature differential and extreme or elevated condensation. So the solution, among other things, is to make sure that the line that is being cooled is properly insulated.
Okay, so
and
that's
that's from
only
start to finish.
It
okay.
just needs to be insulated, not necessarily moved, which I don't see how that would
Well,
be
no,
possible.
because
But,
these
okay.
people are dealing with tight buildings. I'm sure that
Yeah.
what are they going to do? Move it over 4 inches?
Yeah, that's what I
so
mean. Like
it's-
that's not possible. So
But
I
it's
didn't know.
fixable,
But
though.
you think that problem is fixable just
with
with
proper insulation.
Well, yeah, proper insulation, and maybe to Anna's point, there is an issue with vicinity. If it's very close to the evaporator coil,
Yeah.
the one of the problems may be is that this is getting really, really cold, and your ambient moisture from the outside, perhaps for example during the peak of the summer,
Mhm.
is hitting those metal fins, and this is only where it's condensing. The takeaway here is it just limited to the register, which is in this picture right here that I've kind of highlighted? And if it is, that's in a way that's good news. It insinuates it's not something that's deeper, systemic, that kind of thing. Of course, the other problem then is, well, how do you reduce that? One of the ways you reduce that is by keeping your doors and windows shut. And regulating moisture levels in your home. 40 probably, if you can edge closer to 40%, you're probably not going to have the condensation occur as much. Here's the problem: you're talking about a psychometric chart. You're talking about different levels of relationships, temperature, moisture, all this stuff, and it's like I have no clue what the actual conditions are in your unit. So clearly, there's enough for there to be rust. That's the point. And she's talking about it being very close to the AC coils, recommending to recalculate duct placement. Okay, well then see about that. I mean, at the end of the day, maybe an HVAC company can say, yeah, here's the problem. These two registers are within a couple feet of your evaporator coil, but if we move it away, say 4 feet, that might allow the air coming off the coil to raise in temperature a couple degrees, and maybe that makes the difference.
Okay.
When you say move it away, do you mean just the ducting or the register? Like make a new register spot?
Make a new duct run, which would probably imply, moving the register as well.
Yeah.
What she's trying to do, ultimately, what they're trying to do is extend the duct run to give the air more opportunity to warm up a little bit, which is kind of funny because when you think about it, you'd like to have nice, cool air coming out of your registers, but you're getting into an issue where you're cooling down these fins, these metal fins, down to say the upper 40s or the lower 50s in temperature, and that now is your condensating surface. And depending on what the moisture and temperature levels are in your home, moisture can likely condense. Now, the fact that it's doing it where you live is just a byproduct of either where you live, the climate and the amount of moisture in the air, or it could be because you guys have a humidifier or you're doing other activities like showering and things of that nature. Why is it that these registers are special?
Yeah, well, it's right by the bathroom too.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
That bathroom doesn't get.
It doesn't when people aren't in the bathroom or have or
in other words, it's not in the bathroom doing it.
No.
So the register that's in the bathroom is not doing it. It only
No,
appears to be
they're both doing it, but those are literally within 3 feet of each other.
Yeah.
Got it.
Both of those registers. The one in the
Well,
bedroom.
that's not that might confirm though. I mean, if the other register is close to the bathroom, is it possible that there's a little bit of moisture roll off that comes and hits that register because hot moisture air rises, hits that register, which is also high, condenses, and I don't know. What I don't know, Martel, is if that is consistent with your observations of you seeing it dripping, the same one that you said there's a video of it.
Right. I believe it is. I guess the question is, if we get a good
Exhaust fan.
good, yeah, or if we have someone come in, ACA certified or NATCA certified
Mhm.
HVAC, someone come in, would, I guess the question is would they likely, would that be readily apparent to someone who
Might or
knows
may
what
not, to be honest with you, Martel. I mean, what you could do is invite the thought. You could have somebody who's ACA certified come out there representing
uh,
everything HVAC related, and then say, well, we were thinking about this, the vicinity of the bathroom, source of moisture when you're taking showers and doing your normal stuff. But we generate moisture just as occupants, but we know that bathrooms can be an area where more is created, and that I'm seeing that it's possible that the moisture rises to the top, follows the ceiling or the wall, and comes out, hits a register, condenses. That would be more consistent and more agreeable. And I think more IEPs would agree with that because it's not homogeneous. It's not like it's doing it on all the registers. And that might invite the air conditioning company to say, well, it looks like we don't have an adequate ventilation and or you're not using the exhaust fan. So if
use the
you are
exhaust.
using the exhaust fan and it's still doing it, one argument can be, well, can you turn it on longer? Can you close the bathroom door? Literally close the bathroom door if there is one, turn on the fan, obviously run it while you're taking a shower, but then run it 10 minutes or so after you run it, and all of a sudden does the rusting and the condensation go away? If it
Okay,
doesn't, then it sounds like the fan is not adequately sized for
that's
the job, which the metric for that is rusting on your registers.
right. Okay,
All this is
okay,
about microbial growth too. We're trying
right,
to minimize those conditions.
right. Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that the probability is that this, right now, it looks like if we get the right people in here, that this is a probably doable, but I'm trying to identify any like things that not less clear
If we need to move and stuff.
obstacles, because we'll move if we have to. It just seems like there's been so much already invested in this apartment, and it seems like it's close. It seems like the issues are very isolated. I mean, they're having apartment-wide effects, but the
Mm.
P-trap, I don't know. Anna, she included some pictures of it, but she didn't include a lot of good pictures. But there are definitely cracks in and around the foundations as a whole. But I did some, and I included a link to the LA plumbing code when it comes to the joining transition joints for
Mm-hmm.
differing materials. I don't, I'm not 100% sure because I didn't spend that much time on it. I spent a good amount of time. I don't think, first of all, that material is code, but even if it were code, the joints, you asked me if there was any signs of
Oh, and
oxygen.
well, and also the kitchen, right? Because differing
Right,
materials.
right.
Mhm.
That's what I'm actually talking about. That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the kitchen. Well, at the time, I was kind of knocked out, and
Oh,
I
I
couldn't
remember
blend.
that. You put your head in there to look, and then it kind of sets you back.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It took a day or so for me to get better or back to normal. But I I had some pictures and video of that heat trap from our initial our first couple of inspections of the unit, and I saw evidence of discoloration that I thought might have been oxidation, but I did some more research, and it looks like that really what it is, and this kind of fits whatever all the other evidence that um, that's a strong indication of an installation mistake that a lot of plumbers make when it comes to working with the soldering copper
So show
joints
the
using
plumber,
flux.
get a plumber out there and show
Right,
them this, bring up the code. I know you're bringing it to them as a layperson, but do that nonetheless and say, what we're really trying to figure out is could there be an odor that's coming from this P-trap or this
right,
plumbing drain assembly? Is there something that you don't see to code? And then highlight your specific concern. You seem to reference something in one of the documents you sent that suggests that maybe they did not install something properly. Get that
right,
plumber, that independent plumber, to flag that. Because by the way, you stuck your head in there and you were out for a day or two. I'm
right.
surprised that's not mentioned in here. But
Well,
maybe we need more information. Maybe we need a plumber to come out there, and then you can kind of create that narrative of
right,
saying, wow, look at what we found as well. It all
right,
depends on what you want to do with the information. To validate that there is a problem is one thing. To show the management that there was a problem to justify something else, like paying for all these bills or
right,
deducting it
right,
off of your rent or moving,
right.
that would affect how aggressive and how formal you are with providing these notes to them. If you just
Right.
want to get out, then you just build up as much as you can without breaking the
Mhm.
bank, and then you hope that that's enough for them to break the lease.
Right. Well, we're pretty sure that we've already met that threshold. The our preference is not to move simply because of just the logistics of it.
Yeah,
We at this point, literally every dollar we spent on the IEP stuff,
yeah.
all that, if we move to another place, we kind of lose that because we can't apply that to the next apartment's rent. Uh, um, but and also too, we have to do an assessment of that place. And honestly, I just don't know if we're physically up to it right now because LA's a big place and you have to vet these buildings and do all that stuff and whatever else. Um, so I guess when my bigger point is like if it just seems like that address the issue with the key trap under the kitchen sink, which doesn't to my eye look like a big tremendous project. It shouldn't be that hard to fix.
She did
You
take
know,
cavity sampling.
she I'm sorry,
She Anna took cavity samples.
she took well she did
Go ahead.
she said she did some sampling on the in between the
Yeah,
the
she didn't make holes in anything.
no she didn't
She got the,
she stuck some kind of tube
Yeah,
between the appliance the dishwasher and the
yeah,
cabinet and the refrigerator in the cabinet. Now she did also take an ERMI and a actinomycetes test
yeah.
samples, which um, we told her to process them finally last night. At the time, we wanted to talk to you before if we just determine if it would be useful um, because the ERMI tests, you know, we talked about it didn't seem like that would necessarily give us a lot of information. She said that she sampled from like very high up places on the ceiling and stuff.
Right.
I don't know about that, but Dr. Jim, when I talked to him yesterday, said that the actinomycetes test might be helpful. Um, uh, but I'm not.
Versus the Ermi,
He didn't really mention the army.
he just talked about actinos.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you know, obviously, most of what she focused on, and actually, there's a couple of caveats about the prism testing under the sink.
yeah.
Um, I don't know why, but there was some slight miscommunication and whatever else. We got it worked out, but um, first of all, first of all, the day I don't know how this would affect the results, but the day of and the days leading up to her doing that TMV that test, uh, it was the odor was the best it had been in like a month.
Well, you know,
I
it's
don't know
funny
if
though. Look at how the kitchen sink cabinet spikes up with
still,
still,
MVOCs
yeah,
yeah.
and
So
the
it's
other
still,
one.
yeah, and also because of the shoddy workmanship, she had us open the cabinet doors because she knew we were going to do some VOC testing.
Hmm.
And so we opened up all the kitchen doors except the kitchen cabinet door for about 24 hours, maybe 15 hours before. But in my Sears brain, I forgot that they're actually like those cabinets aren't completely sealed off from each other. So I think some of the air from under the kitchen cabinet might have seeped out through the other cabinets. So I don't know if that means anything in terms of the results. It's just not a sealed off space. But so in terms of the results from the under the sink with the TMVOC, where it says that this is indicative that there's active mold growth, but it's the level that more sensitive individuals will be affected by, or whatever else in the prison report. Um, that's if there is active mold growth there, that is indicative of uh,
Mold growth.
some. It's indicative of mold growth, but you can't have active mold growth if there isn't some excessive moisture or some. Is how strong an evidence is that of some type of moisture intrusion or extrusion or leak or something, even if it's
To
highly
answer your question, it's suggestive. Nothing's a guarantee.
right. But so
It's a curve on a graph,
right.
not the all-seeing eye. And this particular graph is indicating that underneath the kitchen sink, there are moderate levels of TMVOCs, not even in the realm of elevated. Could it be possible that the reason that this level is elevated or compared to, say, minimum, and also that the TVOC levels are elevated, is because there is a breach somewhere in the plumbing, that the same breach that you apparently had a reaction to when we were down for the count for a day or two, and that's an easy fix too, that you didn't necessarily have a huge water leak. It's just that that's where it's coming, because inside of that drain line, you got the moisture you need for microbial growth and thus potential VOCs.
I guess, like, other than some type of
Breach.
micro leak or whatever, yeah, what else would cause mold growth?
You need moisture. You need moisture, so a leak of
Right,
some
so
sort,
it has
an
to be
intrusion.
some sort of.
Yeah, but
So
she did cavity
Okay.
sampling in a couple different areas, and she did not call that out as identifying a problem. So
Right.
she's not
Right.
finding any low-hanging fruit. My suspicions
Right.
is that, listen, we got somebody who's chemically sensitive. We got somebody that stuck their head down in the kitchen sink and had a reaction fairly quickly. I observed it the day that we were on the call. And the observations we had made led to further investigation to deal with, are we dealing with dislikes materials, an issue with code issues, just a flat out bad installation?
Yeah.
She takes
There's a lot of evidence, yeah.
takes a prism sample and it comes back elevated compared to the normal ambient in the living room sample. What more evidence do you want?
Right.
Right.
Okay.
That you
Right.
have something
Yeah.
off gassing. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be a big mountain of a problem, though. You could find it was
Right.
just a loose coupler that if you had
Right.
turned
Right.
it half away, it would have solved all the problems.
Right.
Right.
We're hoping it's something.
Right.
Like,
So I just want to, like, because I'm going to present this to the plumber and to the, just in terms of tightening my narrative to the layman, like this is, that's the progression, and that's what
Ask
we're
the
working on.
plumber. Ask the plumber if they have a combustible gas detector. It's a handheld device, and it's used for identifying sewage, among other things, sewage losses and leaks. So if you have that, they make different sizes and shapes and all that, but here's a couple of visual examples. I actually have I don't see mine here, but the point is they look like these. They have these extensions, and they can use that little wand as a nose, and you put it by the joints, every single joint intersection, and you can sniff, and if it senses it, a lot of these are audible, and so they'll make an uptick in sound. They'll be like, wah, when it finds something. That's what mine does. Now, some of these newer ones may be fancier that do other things. Maybe they're not audible. Oh, there's mine right there. So the point I'm trying to make is that you could use that for audible evidence to confirm the location, the source. So, food for thought. These don't cost a lot of money too. So that one's $354, but it's a great tool to have to help you identify leaks and breaches, especially if you're chemically sensitive, because that seems to be what you're the most reactive to.
Right.
And seems to be a consistent narrative. We're not finding a huge mold problems here. We're finding potential off-gassing and dust and particulate, which, by the way, is important, and a kitchen area. This might be just, you got 4 or 5 little things that need to be addressed, to your point, and then you're off to the races again.
That's what we're hoping, and there's no red flags at this point from the evidence that you're seeing to suggest really otherwise. That if we're thinking that way, we're on pretty solid ground, just for our own, like, health and just like our energy. It doesn't look like, no, just move, because this looks like it's going to be a big, I know that we won't know until, anything can come up, but from the evidence that we've accumulated so far, they really, we haven't missed anything in terms of, like, this is just get out of here.
Just see what it does. All these improvements that we've talked about today. We'll send you an audio recording too of our call today, just so you can kind of like go back and just make sure that you got everything kind of picked out, all the little pearls and nuggets. But and see, and then at the end of the day, you got to hope for the best and shoot for that. And then if that's where you are able to achieve after this work is done, then God bless. But if not, then it's a matter of, okay, do we need to look at what more can we do to tighten the wrench on this thing?
We're not gonna
is
move
it
up.
better filtration, or is it just now it's moving and it's just going to be a logistical headache?
The carpet, last point. Now, there's two ways we can go with the carpet. We can do this thing where we just make a reasonable accommodation request, which they can't refuse.
Mhm.
That we can't have carpet in our apartment. And by law, they have to say, okay, you can take the carpet out, but you need to pay for it. And if we request it, if we want the carpet put back in, you need to pay for that too. We can do that. But I was thinking about this, and this is kind of bothersome to me. But this problem's been going on for about 6 months almost now. And, we warned them about this a while ago, the first month. I, what is there? I believe that the carpet is most probably contaminated. It's probably not.
That's a reservoir best case scenario.
Okay. So I think I know how to explain the dynamics of that, of why that would be. If you had to just like really quickly explain that to someone, why, given the circumstances of these potential growths and things like that, and these issues with the airflows, that why would we need to take this? Why would this carpet most probably be an area of concern, probably contaminated or a reservoir?
Yeah, I'm looking for something to show you. Hold on. Definitely related to all this. So give me a second here.
What did you have? Any more questions? Okay.
No.
Allergen, allergies, community. What is that one called?
They won't. We won't. We don't. We can stop.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So here we go. See, it's funny. It says the current evidence shows that some aspects of carpets can benefit the health and safety of occupants, while other aspects contribute to illness and injury. Based it's on professional judgment, the National Center of Healthy Housing offers the following recommendations. Avoid wall-to-wall carpet and damp areas in rooms of individuals with allergies or asthma. You would fit into that model, by the way.
Okay. Yeah.
Avoid wall-to-wall. Consider not installing wall-to-wall for bedmen and person with sensitive. It's better for people to avoid carpeting, especially in rooms, and go because hardwood floorings are easier to keep than clean. So you have documents like this that are more substantial. I mean, there's an allergen. I forgot if it's AAA or not AAA like the auto thing, but there's another one, AAII or something like that, that they do not recommend carpeting. And we know that because holistically they are reservoirs, and reservoirs can build up stuff and they are harder to clean. And so from a particulate standpoint, if you have hard flooring versus carpeting, typically the particulate counts are higher in the house with carpeting. And there's studies and stuff like this one here. Do carpets impact indoor air quality, cause adverse health outcome? This is just a review. There's other studies that are out there too that you can look up, I think, to solidify the point about being proactive. And maybe that's it. That's the compromise. Maybe it's one of those deals where it's like they'll work a deal with you and it's like, okay, you pay for the removal and we will pay for we will give you a credit of what would be new carpeting, but you can apply it towards hard flooring, assuming they are willing to let you do that.
Right.
So you pay the difference.
Right.
And that to me is reasonable because you can't expect them to bend because it beyond any other liability issues. And now it's like, if we did it for you, we have to do it for everybody.
Right.
And that would put them in a bad financial situation. But for you to pay the difference, that's still pretty generous of them, especially since it's a newer unit.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to be clear about
There's
my
off-gassing.
reasoning.
There's off-gassing issues. You can talk about the adhesives and the materials themselves. You can look up on Google Scholar. It's such a great resource. You can type in, off-gassing of carpets, padding, and the glues and adhesives that might be used, and you'll see all sorts of studies. And again, knowing you, Martel, which in this case is a huge asset, your type of personality and research, you could come up with 10 references to support the argument of getting rid of the carpet.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to, sometimes when you're so invested in something, I know that you can convince yourself of a point of view.
You're not trying to be biased.
Well.
You're not trying to be biased, but it's an easy argument to talk about the benefits of hard flooring versus carpeting.
Okay, awesome. Just want to do that, and I won't get into it, but maybe when if we touch base again. But one of the reasons why we want to stay here is that there were other issues aside from this, that the apartment complex where they made some very egregious errors with some things.
Yeah.
So we have some leverage with that. So
Yeah, I remember you telling me about the quality of build on this one versus another one was way different.
right.
Almost like they
And
were getting rushed or whatever the case may be. So I agree.
yeah, and there were some issues with our leasing and money and stuff like that. They
Got
made
it.
some mistakes. So
Got it.
all right, awesome. So what we're going to do, so you think that the letter from Dr. Jim it looks pretty strong to me, and you think looks pretty strong. It probably doesn't need to do a lot of, that seems to cover the basis of what we would want to use. We
Yeah,
wouldn't
and
add much to it.
in the last sentence, not to interrupt you, in the last sentence of, I'm looking at her report right now, or Dr. Jim's report. He says, I support the medical necessity of urgently making the above and all other repairs documented, and that's key, by the two other mold inspectors in Anna Branch and Mike Schrantz. Anna Branch is going to do a follow-up document with you now of the ERM or the Actinos or whatever, but the Prism, because in her current report, it says awaiting results for the VOCs. Reach out to Anna and have her come up with as a robust that's fair, but is explicit of a concern that really helps say also, because no one's really addressing professionally, and you're needing Anna's boots on the ground to really help with this, is not really addressing the kitchen incident. And that to me is significant. So get her to identify it. And I think the Prism will allow her to do that, the Prism result.
Right, awesome. We've been in communication, and she's standing by.
So
she's been
what
great
I want you to do is this. So have her give the additional report, supplemental report, however you want to call it. Compile your thoughts, like game plan, like here's literally our presentation that we're going to give to the office. This overview document from the doctor. Here's our action items of what we want done, and here's the supporting things. I know you can do this. Keep it really organized, to the point, and then send me that information. And if I can look at it quickly, I will, because I'm not going to re-review things. I just want to see kind of how you have it ordered. And I'll just let you know what I think. And if we need to do a 20-minute, we'll also do that. It all just depends on the complexity. So if you keep it simple, I might just be able to screen it, take 3 minutes, no big deal.
Right. Well, this is the intended audience is actually that housing department thing, because basically, if they are convinced that if it's a health issue, the only thing we need to do is establish that there is an imminent, present, and serious health issue with regards to.
I still want to get your ducks aligned. Touche to your point about it being more to that department. That's fine, understood. But you still want to get your ducks in a row, because you're going to get one good opportunity to present yourself. I don't want to go Eminem 8 Mile right now, but you get one shot. And let's get it going. So that you sound reasonable and fair. That's where and actually you don't really sound unreasonable to me, and a lot of people do, because it's fear-based, and they exaggerate things, and they kill their own points and concerns because they over-exaggerate, thinking that's going to help them, and it harms them. I don't really see that with you, but nonetheless, let's get it right and make sure. Put all the pieces together. Let's see what Anna says before you send anything off. We want that secondary report with the TVOCs and the activities to be helpful.
Okay.
All right.
The Actino might not come back for another 10 days. I don't think we're going to wait for that.
Well, and you might be right, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really help you necessarily locate a source. In fact, it may just muddy the waters, and some of these improvements, you could argue, might reduce some of those. Actinos aren't just produced by water damaged buildings. They're growing on you. They're coming from the outside, and we don't really have the same surgical capabilities of interpretation as we do with an ERMI. And I just had a powwow meeting this morning with a group of IEPs literally around the globe. And we were just talking about different things, and one of them was the Actinos. So it's one of those things where, it could be good for the clinical doctor, but for the purposes of your current mission, I don't think it's vital to have Actino results.
Right, I don't think so either. The deep cleaning, that is going to be, we're probably going to want to get that done. Well, we're going to get that done. And I know that you linked to Aerosolver. I'm not sure, they're not I guess we can get the actual cleaning product from them.
Yeah.
But can we just get a general, like a deep cleaning company come in that should basically do it. I mean, that should,
Yeah, it's
um,
just going to be more handholding. It's just going to be, what are they going to do? I mean, I don't care who we recommend. The bottom line is that if you're bringing in a professional, unless it's like a handful of people that I know and would vet with my own family, and I consider you family,
mhm.
we want to see what they're recommending, because there are companies now that are going around fogging apartments with chemicals to kill and destroy and all this audience. And I would argue that could make this thing worse for you. So if you're
Right.
going
Right,
to have
yeah.
a professional, because I think I know where you're going with having a professional take care of it and all that stuff is fine, but we need to see what their protocol is. And that means they have to specify it out, the details of their protocol. Step 1, do this, step 2, that, and let's see. Are they complicating things? Or are they using industry best practices like air scrubbing devices? Or you might know them as air filtration devices. HEPA vacuuming, followed by damp wiping with soap and water, the kind of soap that you use, not some crazy stuff that you might be sensitive to. Dry wiping with Swiffer cloths, multiple rounds of it. Are they doing that? Well, we don't know that, do we? We have to see what they're going to write, because they're not going to tell you unless you ask them.
It would, do you recommend, is it better for us, because we know how to do it, to do it ourselves, even if it's obviously going to be done much slower because we can only do a small amount of time, or to just vet
How big is that apartment?
700
Yeah.
square feet, maybe.
Yeah, you'd make a
750.
weekend of it. You'd, if you were going to do the aerosolver thing, here's the thing: you don't have scrubbers. You don't have a bunch of commercial scrubbers that you'd be using. That's the
Right.
big thing. You probably don't have a commercial vacuum, although that's not critically important. You could use a good vacuum that you have with the attachments. Yes, that would take longer. You probably could do the damp wiping. You probably could do the dry wiping. This aerosolver is meant to really help with the air part and the surface, but it starts with the air, and that's the whole point. So you could buy a gallon of this product and the fogger for less than $1,000 and do it yourself. You guys have to chew on that a little bit. I'm getting at the end of my other time now. But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
point, is chew on it. If you do it yourself, you might save. I say you might save more money. It's ironic. You might actually, if they're going to deduct it off of your price, and you say, hey, this is what this stuff cost me. I don't know if they pay for your labor, and then there's that.
Yeah.
You could do that, and I wouldn't have a problem if that you guys did it, because I think you would do a good job doing it. But if another company is going to come in and charge whoever $4,000, $3,000, $8,000, I want to know what they're doing. They're probably not going to be doing aerosolver.
Right.
That's addressed in your series remediations, right?
4-part remediation series gets more into the traditional. We don't dive into aerosolver, you're right, but we do get into what is industry best practice and what you'd want to see happen, so you can at least arm yourself with that information and use that to have a intelligent conversation with a local remediation company. Ask Anna if she knows somebody. She might know of a
Right.
company that could start with.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank
You bet.
you.
All right,
Thanks for
guys,
your
here's what
time,
we're going to
man.
do. I understand that you were going to bill the other company anyways. I'm going to not charge you my 20-minute rate because it's a lot more expensive. I'll just charge you for a flat hour today consult, since we've been on the
Okay.
phone for basically 58 minutes. So I'm going to
Right.
do that. Let me get a credit card. It'll
Thank
be for
you.
$250 today.
Oh,
Do you have it?
yeah.
Oh, hold on.
I don't have
Sorry.
that.
Give me 1 second.
No problem.
It's hard to keep everything in